All guests on ZASLOW Show 2.0 brought to us by the official beer of the program. You know I'm talking Johnny, Cuba. How else do you think we're going to enjoy all the football this weekend? Dolphins this weekend taking on the Lions. I'll have a nice cold Johnny Cuba in hand in the ZASLOW Mansion family room. European roots, a Caribbean soul. Pick up a refreshing German lager in a can. Go to johnnycuba.us. You use the Johnny locator. Find the nearest location to you. Make sure you always drink responsibly, and don't forget Johnny Cuba's mantra, stay tranquilo. Of course, our pal is Jamey Eisenberg, CBS Sports Fantasy Football. Jamey, before we get to the action, the Dolphins. Now, granted, the Dolphins' word out of their joint practice today up in Detroit was that they looked a lot better and maybe actually outplayed the Lions overall. But yesterday, it sounded like a shit show. What do you make of everything you're hearing right now about the Dolphins overall?
It's one of the more topsy-turvy preseasons and training camps that we've been monitoring because, you have the start of it where Tua makes the Tyreek comment. Tua makes comments about Tyreek that he's got to basically, prove himself after the way last season ended in the comments that he made. And it felt like Tyreek was saying and doing all the right things. And then Jalen Waddle gets banged up a little bit. He was having a strong camp. Now Tyreek's banged up a little bit. Jalen Waddle came back today. I'm sure it's a big part of why Tua looked better. You have the offensive line with just dealing with a lot of injuries. Thankfully, you have not heard much about Devon Achane. He's going to be the first Dolphins player drafted. And he's basically become, I think, what a lot of people think of Alvin Kamara. Just a guy who's going to catch a lot of passes, be heavily involved, chance to be a fantasy superstar. And he was that last year when Tua was healthy. So I'm still waiting to see what Darren Waller can do and what role he'll play. I'm hoping that Tyreek is healthy because I kind of bought back in after the start of camp and the things that he said. He was on with our network, CBS Sports HQ, and my colleague Pete Prisco, and he said lost weight, being more dedicated to the team, a lot of things he said in the South Florida media as well. And so, I don't know, fooled me, but, certainly got me to buy back in a little bit because we know what he can be when he's healthy, even at 31. Could be one of the best receivers in football and one of the best fantasy receivers. So as of now, if I'm doing a draft this weekend, second week of preseason action, I'm taking Devon Achane in round 1. I'm taking Tyreek middle of round 3. I'm taking Jalen Waddle in round 5. And Tua's a late round pick. The nice thing about Tua is he's kind of been
Tua's not you're telling me Tua's not a starting fantasy quarterback then right now?
He is not in the starting caliber mix. He is in the group of quarterbacks that I think you wait for, and you know what the floor is. And I don't know if we have actually seen what his ceiling can be consistently, because even the year when he led the NFL in passing yards in 2023, he was 20 fantasy points per game. A lot of spike games, so he can give you a 50-point game as we've seen, but can he give you the 25 consistently? So when I'm looking for a low-end starting quarterback, he's in that conversation. Is he going to be in the Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson stratosphere? He's got a long way to go to do that.
Is Caleb Williams getting his first start of the preseason this weekend the biggest story for you preseason week 2?
I mean, there's so many stories, for me, but yes, you'd like to see something because this was a guy that's had a rapid decline in a lot of people's rankings, mine included. I still believe in the parts, so I like the receiving core, sort of dialing back some expectations. I think DeAndre Swift is one of the more undervalued running backs this year, and Colston Loveland could still be a starting caliber tight end. This is more believing in the system than the player right now in terms of Caleb Williams, because Ben Johnson should do better things with him than what we saw last year. It's not going to be the Detroit offense. You can't expect that. But DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, Colston Loveland, DeAndre Swift, there's some potential starting options there, if not all of them being starting options, but it's got to come from Caleb Williams being better.
Matthew Stafford threw last weekend. They were hoping he was going to participate this week in practice. He is not. He's going to throw again apparently this Saturday. How big a concern is that?
It's getting to be a concern. At the same time, you have a 37-year-old quarterback in a Sean McVay system. How much different will it be for Jimmy Garoppolo? And I know a lot of people hearing that, they're going to laugh and say Stafford's a Hall of Famer and Jimmy Garoppolo looked like he was out of the league last year after he struggled with the Raiders. You would have said a lot of the same things probably about Sam Darnold. And then he goes to a great system with a great coach, and he looks like a Pro Bowler with how he performed with the Vikings last year. And so go through the Rams car wash, get with Sean McVay, have Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. I know Adams and Garoppolo, seeming like Adams wanted to kill him last year. I I don't think the production for the receiving core will be as terrible as people expect. But obviously, it's not Stafford. So you want to make sure Stafford's healthy. If you're investing in Puka in a first-round pick, Devontae Adams in the third-round pick, Kyron Williams in the second-round pick. But I don't think it will be a complete disaster if Jimmy Garoppolo is starting quarterback for the Rams at any point this year.
What do you make of Shedeur last weekend? Got all the headlines. He's not going to play this weekend, deal with an oblique strain. Is that on the fantasy radar at all?
Not really for him. I think the biggest thing that you're looking for if you're investing in the Browns, because Joe Flacco, at his age, still brings a level of competency and upside for the receiving core and the passing game. And so we saw it 2023 when he came off his couch. It was great for Amari Cooper at the time. It was amazing for David Njoku. Now, hopefully, it's great for Njoku again and great for Jerry Jeudy. Cedric Tillman's a good late-round pick. The thing that I wanted to see, and I got that answer, at least, for me, but it could be Dylan Gabriel, still could be Kenny Pickett, is if they're losing and they decide to make a switch at quarterback, which you could see that path happening, do they go to Sanders? And will he be able to keep those players afloat from their fantasy production? So I thought he made a lot of great throws. I was thrilled to see the poise in the pocket, not getting overwhelmed by the moment. And again, backups versus backups, all those things you take into account. But he looked the part. He looked much better than a fifth-round pick. He looked like a guy that could have been in the conversation to be at least a second-round pick. And we'll see how Dylan Gabriel does. If Gabriel falls on his face, you'd like to see Shedeur get an opportunity to at least be the backup and then maybe a chance to start at some point.
How about the Jets? Justin Fields looked pretty competent in his first action last weekend in preseason week 1. They got some really good offensive pieces there. What do we make of that situation?
So Fields is going to be one of my late round targets at quarterback and another breakout candidate, mostly because of what we saw in that preseason game. He was going to use his legs, and that's his best asset. Ran for 1,000 yards in 2023, or 2022, excuse me. Has the ability to be an 800, 900 yard rusher. Does he have enough weapons to be a great passing quarterback? Well, he didn't he didn't have that to become, a good fantasy quarterback. And last year, 6 games started for the Steelers. Final 4, he was averaging over 24 fantasy points per game. He's been basically a 20-plus fantasy point per game guy his entire career when he's been a starter. There are a lot of ebbs and flows that go through that. So you got to, week to week, you may not love the total outcome, but I think just he's got a chance to be special. I do like the opportunity to see him get back with his college receiver, at least one of them, in Garrett Wilson. I am nervous about Breece Hall because when you hear narratives and then you see them, so we get obviously a lot of things in the preseason. This is going to happen. This running back's going to play wide receiver, but he plays one snap, and who cares? Aaron Glenn from the owners meeting said, we're going to use multiple running backs. Breece Hall said, I'm not one of their guys. I got to go out and prove myself. Then we get to the first preseason game, and it's a few carries for Breece Hall. It's a few carries for Braylon Allen. It's a few touches for Isaiah Davis. Hall's the guy. He's the one you should draft first. But I'm not taking him in round 3 where his average draft position is. I'm going to let somebody else take that gamble. I'm going to take Braylon Allen later because I think Braylon Allen's going to have a big role.
Interesting. The Eagles, no more Kellen Moore, another new offensive coordinator for Jalen Hurts. What do we expect there?
I think you'll see a lot of status quo. I'm concerned about Saquon Barkley, mostly because running backs with that amount of work don't survive the next season at the same level. To what degree he falls off, to what maybe injury he succumbs to, I hope that's not the case. But that's just the track record of running backs that have over 400 carries, over 480 total touches. And if you want to just sort of mirror something, the number 1 player in 2023 was Christian McCaffrey. He played into the Super Bowl. He had over 400 total touches. He comes back the next season at 28 years old, excuse me. He can't stay healthy. And on the Madden cover, Saquon Barkley plays through the Super Bowl, over 480 total touches. On the Madden cover. Like, there's just some things that just don't make me feel good about the situation. So I don't want to bet against Saquon Barkley, but we've seen him have big workloads and then get hurt the next year. So I think, and just to get to your question, if he can't run the ball to the same level, and on top of that, there's been 8 guys that have rushed for 2,000 yards in a season prior to him. He's the 9th guy to do it. All 8 have seen a decline in their rushing yards by at least 500 yards. 6 of those guys have declined by 800 yards. So whatever degree that offense changes, whether it's coordinator, whether it's run game not as successful, you already have some offensive line guys banged up right now. That should benefit Hurts as a passer and benefit A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert as pass catchers.
Where's Derrick Henry going in drafts? Like, what would have to happen for people who evaluate like you to say, I know he's been productive. I know he hasn't had the drop off yet, but this is probably the time that I don't love selecting him.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going by track record with me and Derrick Henry, this is not the year to buy in because I bet against him, each of the last 3 seasons because of age and workload. The foot injury that he suffered after his 2,000-yard season, and he's just defied the odds. I think if you were to have an alien come down to Earth and say, "What's football?" and what is a running back that can beat the aliens in a Monstars versus Earthlings, Derrick Henry would be the guy you choose. Like he's given Father Time the stiff arm, time and time again. So he's 31 years old now. He's just in the right situation. They are a dominant team. They're going to be ahead in most games or competitive in most games, and that's been the track record for him because he doesn't catch the ball very much. There's not many guys you could say 1,500 plus rushing yards and probably 15 touchdowns. Like he's that guy. So I started with him as running back 7. I'm now moving him to running back 6. It has nothing to do with Ashton Genty struggling in the preseason game. It's more belief in Derrick Henry. And so he'll stay behind McCaffrey and Barkley and Achan and Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs. I can't see myself moving him higher. His average draft position is still round 1. I have him at 14. So anywhere in that 10 through 14 range, you're going to see Derrick Henry drafted.
Excellent job, Jamey. Tell everybody how they can hear you throughout the weekend with all the games going on.
CBSSports.com. You'll see all of my columns there. And our podcast, I think it's the best in the business. We've won awards that say so. But most importantly, helping people win their fantasy league. So we've just finished a full week of doing all of our position previews: running back, quarterback, wide receiver, tight end, and sleepers, breakouts, and busts. So giving you everything you need to get ready for your drafts.
Awesome job, Jamey. Thanks so much, man. We'll talk to you next Thursday.
Appreciate it. Thank you.